fewer than 30% of the population, yet they have, 46, 47% of the congressional representatives because of this gerrymandering, because of this tricky stuff that they've learned how to do. And so we have to think about that. I'm going to give you this quickly before we get to the break. I think this is on page 7. There's an overwhelming majority of the world's democratic countries use something called proportional representation for their elections. I know we got the music coming up, but just follow me for just this 1 second. Where districts elect multiple representatives to Congress in proportion to their party's share of the vote. So what that means is if there are 10 offices at the congressional level that are open to be voted on, and you have say 30% of the people vote for your party, you would get 3 out of those 10 congressional representatives would be from your party. Your party, as a party, would vote on who would represent them, but the public would vote for your party, not for you as an individual, but for your party. And therefore, you'd be able to allocate the representation across those different interest groups based on their proportion of the electorate. If you did it that way, then everybody would be represented. So in Buffalo, it wouldn't matter that you tried to carve out, slices of Buffalo, and Buffalo ends up with no representation. If 12% of the people that live in New York State live in Buffalo, then you would wind up with, or not Buffalo, in Erie County, then you would wind up with 12% of your state legislature would be from Erie County.
Just real quick, if we went that way, that's kind of similar to the defensive strategy that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. Due to the gerrymandering and the effect that has, this right here kind of evens things out.
So that's what this proposal talks about. It would allow more voters to have a say in who represents them. If a party wins 40% of the vote, it would get 40% of the seats.
Yeah.
If Oklahoma liberals and Massachusetts conservatives were a minority in those states, they'd have a minority vote. If liberals, independent, and progressives represented 70% of the people in that state, and they voted that way, then they would have 70% of the representatives representing them in those states. If you did that, it would be a much more accurate representation
yes,
at the state and federal level. But right now, it's very inaccurate. It's very off, and the incentive to change the structure doesn't exist. The Republicans have built an incentive to continue to do what they've been doing, and as a consequence, we end up in what we have right now. You've got 4 people in Congress who are able to stop the election of the Speaker of the House. They've now they went through 15 rounds with Kevin McCarthy, threw him out. Now they've had 4 speakers of the House they've elected from their majority. But when they had to go get the majority of the Congress as a whole, they failed because you didn't get all of the Republicans to vote for their own party's candidate.
Is there still a looming presence of Trump maybe becoming speaker?
Well, they're not talking about Trump becoming speaker anymore. That people, spit on that idea.
Okay.
Accurately, they spit on that idea. But Trump's people and Trump himself have been saying, if you're a person who voted to certify the November 3rd, 2020 election, you can't be the Speaker of the House because you're offending me as Donald Trump, because I say that the November election was invalid. Mm-hmm. And based on that, you've had at least 3 of the 4 people that have been propped up so far because they had voted for certifying the election. They've not been able to get the support of their own party.
Wow.
And they're already elected people in their party, but couldn't get the support of their own party. So we'll get into a little bit more of this as we go along. I didn't mean to go so far. I just want you to understand there are other ways that these things can be done. They don't have to be done the way they did. And every model has a body of good points and has a body of bad points. But what's going on right now shouldn't continue because it's clearly bad for the country.
Yeah.
So listen, we're going to take a quick break. Hopefully the sponsors won't go away mad because you were taking up so much time. We will see you on the other side of the break here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY. That was me, by the way.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
91.3 FM WBNY is proud to present Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman.
Welcome to Democracy Now!
Award-winning investigative journalism.
Is the NRA imploding?
Providing relevant analysis that makes you think.
Secret State Department documents, including evidence of U.S. war crimes.
Fact-finding reports you will not hear elsewhere. Democracy Now! Airs Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo. Ready for radio that's challenging, innovative, and encouraging? Tune in, Living for the People.
This is L. Nathan Hare. Join me right here, 91.3 FM WBNY. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. after Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! We'll provide objective analysis regarding current issues. Call 878-5104. It's Living for the People on 91.3 FM WBNY. All right, welcome back to Living for the People. This is L. Nathan Harry, your host. We're here with Norm Carter, who is the in-studio audience of one. Welcome back, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare.
And, of course, we're here with Willie H., who does the live streaming of the program. Welcome back, Willie.
Welcome, everybody, to Living for the People with L. Nathan Hare.
Call us again at 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104. I know that some of these things are challenging that we're talking about, but we're in challenging times.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a situation where you can't even here's something that the media does that I find representative of my attitude towards the mass media in this country. They're saying that Democrats joined, this is the way they frame it, Democrats joined 8 Republicans to kick Kevin McCarthy out of the speakership of the House of Representatives. That sounds like Kevin McCarthy was ousted by the Democrats. It was the Democrats' fault, and the Democrats initiated it. Now, I need for you to understand that the Speaker of the House in this country for more than 100 years has been elected by whatever the majority party is in the House of Representatives. So if there are 435 representatives in the House, you would need 218 of, I think it's roughly what it is, of those representatives would have to vote for a particular person. So whoever has the majority of votes in the House, they're the ones who make that decision, right? You wouldn't have, if the majority of the people in the House are Republicans, the Democrats wouldn't elect their own because they would elect a Democrat, and the Republicans would vote against that Democrat. They wouldn't vote for anybody who's not a member of their party. increase defense spending higher and cut everything else, that is paid for by discretionary spending in the federal budget. Why would the Democrats vote for anybody who has that agenda, right, at all? But that's what's going on right now. I just want you to understand that the media is giving you the impression that the Democrats knocked Kevin McCarthy out of his office. Structurally, it's true. The only 8 Republicans voted against Kevin McCarthy, and the rest of the Republicans voted for McCarthy. But it was the 100% of the Democrats joined the 8 Republicans.
Right.
So I think it's 212 Democrats joined 8 Republicans, and that knocked Kevin McCarthy out.
The Democrats did their job, what they're supposed to
That's
do.
what they're supposed to do, right? If the Republicans lost favor with their own candidates, then they should have gotten out of the way and let the Democrats nominate somebody, for that office, and they should have joined the Democrats. I'm sure they could have found some conservative Democrat, representing some, conservative district that would have somebody like what's his name in West Virginia. The names start to get away from me and whatnot. But whatever the case, the congressman or the senator from West Virginia, very conservative district, they could have joined with somebody like him, and gotten a more conservative Democrat if they couldn't find somebody in the Republican Party that they could take. But what are the Republicans putting on the table? They're not going to vote for the funding of the government. It has to be done on November 17th, or you're going to have the same shutdown crisis of the government that you had a few weeks ago. You're going to have that again on November 17th. They're not going to support additional funds for Ukraine, even though it's U.S. policy to support the fight against authoritarian governments like Russia actually invading a democratic country and trying to conquer that country and take it and put it into the pocket of Russia. The Republicans aren't willing to do that because, Donald Trump doesn't want them to do it. I don't know what the Russians have done with Donald Trump, but they actually want to stand with Russia, against the Ukraine. That doesn't make any sense, but that's what's going on right now. And so many other issues, that we have in front of us. And so I just want us, the public, to understand this is not the Democrats knocking out a Republican Speaker of the House. The Republicans knocked out the Speaker of the House. Democrats voted against the Republican nominee because Democrats wanted a Democrat, in that space, who would support the things that Democrats are supporting. Why would they vote for somebody who's going to do everything in their power to destroy everything Democrats have been trying to get done? And more importantly, when you support someone, you need to be able to trust that what that person says, that person will do. Kevin McCarthy negotiated with President Biden back in was it May to July of this year, negotiated a deal to end the debt ceiling crisis. That deal involved a ceiling on how much money could be spent in all of the departments of the federal government. That was supposed to be an effort to frame how we get the government funded in September of this year, so that we wouldn't have the government shutdown that we had going on right now. So McCarthy went along with the deal. They increased the debt ceiling. Well, they didn't actually increase the debt ceiling. They just took away what the debt ceiling was. There was no cap on how much money could be spent. But that's the same thing as increasing the debt ceiling. So McCarthy went along with that. Once that was done, then we had the issue of funding the government as the next thing coming up. It had to be done by September 30th of this year. It didn't get done because Kevin McCarthy did not honor the deal that he himself negotiated with Joe Biden. So why would the Democrats vote to continue to appoint a person in the speaker's office who you can't trust, who says one thing, does a deal with you, and then when it's time to cash in the deal, he says, "Nope, I was lying. I didn't mean for you I didn't mean to give you that. I'm taking it back." And so and the other Republicans, to a person, are doing the same thing. So this is the reality that we find ourselves in. So I think it's important that people understand the context of what's going on here. But I wanted to visit with a second on this sound that you may have heard. You probably were sleeping and didn't hear the sound, but it's the sound of a shoe dropping. And in fact, 2 shoes have dropped. Remember the last time we talked, 1 shoe had dropped, right? That was the Sidney Powell, that she said, "Okay, yes, I stole. Yes, I lied. Yes, I cheated. Yes, I'm slovenly, and all of that." And so, just don't take my law license away and don't put me in jail, okay? And I'll tell you everything. So she put her stuff on the table. And then we had Cheeseborough, another Trump lawyer who was even closer to Trump. And he said, "Yeah, okay, you caught me. That was my hand in the cookie jar. I should have wore gloves, but I didn't. My bad. I'll tell you everything. Just don't take my law license away and don't put me in jail." And so Cheeseborough has done his thing. I don't know if you all remember this lady. Her name is Alice. Oh, goodness. I thought I had written her name down. That was Sidney Powell, Cheeseborough. Oh, goodness. Her last name is Alice. And she was one of the ones that was running around. Yeah, there she is. She was one of the ones that was running around. Her name is Jenna. That's her name. Jenna Ellis. She was the one that was running around with Donald Trump and fronting that the election was stolen. Machines were invented in like Sidney Powell. They were manufactured in Venezuela. Why would you be buying voting machines manufactured in Venezuela and bringing them to the United States, and that everybody across the United States is voting on those machines? That's not even a lie. That's a fairy tale. That's just silly nonsense. But she was promoting all of that stuff. Well, this Jenna Ellis was promoting that kind of stuff as well, in terms of what this misconduct that they claim was going on in the election. So the first shoe to drop, this is an article written by John Rosamondo, where it talks about Kenneth Cheeseborough pleading guilty to charges in connection with a legal memo that he wrote for former President Donald Trump, suggesting that he could send an alternate state of electors to the Congress. Now, I just want you to feel this for a second. Initially, Kenneth Cheeseborough was charged with something like 4 or 5 felonies. If you had been charged with 4 or 5 felonies and you negotiated a plea deal, the likelihood is you're going to end up having to plead to at least one of those felony charges, and you're going to be facing some jail time. But if you're part of the American elite, the elite rulers of this country, the ruling class of this country, you can commit these kinds of crimes and then plea deal a plea, to a negotiated settlement on the instead of having a court trial, you plead to a certain smaller set of charges, and you can walk away with no time and keep your law license. Well, that's what happens with this guy. He was one of 18 defendants, included Donald Trump that were indicted in August of this year by DA Fannie Willis in Georgia. Cheeseborough helped create slates of alternate electors in Georgia and in other states that were won by Joe Biden. He pleaded guilty to a single felony charge of conspiracy, and he got a sentence of 5 years probation. This is somebody who actually was participating in a coup to overthrow the government of the United States and replace it with a government of a smaller set of people that just essentially conquered the United States.
So how could somebody involved in treason just walk away like that? Did he give up anything, or I mean, is there any reason that he is
he's part of the American elite, the ruling class of this country. If you went and stole an automobile, right, they wouldn't come back and say, well, you know, he just stole an automobile, you know, and nobody died, even though somebody may have died. Nobody died. You know, he's a good guy, and he's got a law license, you know, so we know he can be a productive employee for somebody. Let's not take everything away. We'll just hit him with, you know, a minor conviction and probation. That's what they're doing for this guy. In return, you don't even know what he said or is promising to testify.
That's what I'm kind of wondering. Right. Is there something big that?
So the only thing that I can say in response to that, Norm, is that for him and this other lady, Sidney Powell,
yeah, both of them,
both of them had to testify on the record. In other words, the Justice Department attorneys, Jack Smith and Fannie Willis, they were able to sit in front of these people and have their lawyers ask these people questions, make them respond to the questions, and for that to be recorded, so that if they say, yes, I stole that money, that was my $100,000 that you saw in my blouse, but I didn't mean to steal it. You know, if I thought you were going to ask for it back, I would have given it to you myself. I mean, that's the kind of craziness that's being talked about right now. But when they testify on the record, you're going to ask them, did you steal that money? And they're going to say, yes, I stole that money, because no other answer is going to be accepted. You know, there. Once they had that on the record, then they went along with the plea deal, because if they bring these people back to testify later this year or next year, they have the recorded testimony of these people to back up what it is that they say these people know,
right, and
what these people did. So that's the best that I can say, that they have a concrete body of evidence to prove the things that they're going to have these people testify to in these trials that are still coming up.
I know they're going to utilize some of the stuff that was said or that they testified to, which is in, all together. It'll help them against Trump.
Higher ups, right?
Yeah, Trump, right, or higher ups.
Right.
But at the same time, you already got them for the crimes that they committed. I mean, why not prosecute?
You would think that they would hold these people to a higher standard of accountability. I'm pretty sure if that were you or I, and we had done, you know, if I'm not mistaken, DA Fannie Willis charged these people with something like 19 different felonies. If you were a part of the commission of 19 different felonies, I'm pretty sure that you would wind up with a sentence that involved more than you writing on the board, you know, 1,000 times. I'm a nitwit, you know.
Slap on the wrist.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's how this thing is done. I guess they feel like they're saving money and they're getting what they want, which is enough evidence to be able to convict people like Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump.
But when you're charged with treason, though, Mr. Hare, come on now. It's something. Something's got to happen more than a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, and even the treason, they didn't call it treason. You know, they call it, you know, tampering with, you know, an election, tampering with people's right to vote, tampering with the results of a vote. You know,
regardless of the wording, we know what it is.
Right, but I'm just saying, the words are what ends up surviving. You know, if you refer to this 30 years from now, it's going to be the words that are on paper, not the words that were said in the newspaper.
I got you,
right?
Sir.
So the second plea deal is the one that involved Sidney Powell, and she reported, what was it, emails obtained by the New York Times show that Cheeseborough was considering not only the legality of various maneuvers related to the people certified to represent the Electoral College votes. He put testimony of Cheeseborough actually undercuts the arguments that he had been making only legal advice to Donald Trump. He was asserting that when he was giving Donald Trump, these proposals on how to manipulate, the Electoral College counts and how to manipulate the vote on January 6th of 2022, how to manipulate that vote so that that the vote would not certify the election. He was the one that pulled that together. And so they're saying that his testimony undercuts the argument that Trump was making, that Cheeseborough was just giving him legal advice. That's not legal advice. He was giving him campaign advice, and he was giving him advice on how to commit a crime. And he knew it was a crime. Anytime you're forging a document that requires a signature, and the signature says before the signature, I'm certifying that everything that I said in this document is true, and you sign that document, then you are committing fraud, right? And if you sign somebody else's name to the document, you're committing forgery. That's just plain, simple law, right? Well, that's what was being done, what Cheeseborough was promoting. And he didn't just do it in Georgia. He did it in 5 states where they actually created a slate of delegates to the Electoral College Assembly on December, I think it was the Delegate College, I think it met on December 18th of 2021, met on December 18th. That's when the Electoral College met, and the votes from all of the states were submitted and ratified. These are the votes from the Electoral College. Then the next step was on January 6th of 2022 was to take what the Delegate College says was the results of the federal election and submit those to the presiding officer of the joint session of Congress, which would have been Mike Pence. And once that was submitted, Mike Pence's job was to actually read out loud, or have somebody read out loud, what the Electoral College votes were for each of the individual states. And once that was done, then they had to say there's X number of delegates, representing Joe Biden. There's X number of delegates that represent Donald Trump, and X number of delegates representing Mickey Mouse and wherever else they did these nominations for. And then that becomes the certification of the election. If you have a body of electors, you have 2 different sets of people that are represented as the electors for a state, then that means you'd have to do an investigation to figure out which set of people were the real electors. That would take time. That's what Donald Trump and Cheeseborough were trying to get done. So you had Cheeseborough in that. There was one more person that has also been caught up on this thing, and we don't know if they've actually pleaded guilty or not. The ABC was saying that they have done a plea deal with Mark Meadows, who was another higher up Trump attorney, and I think he was a legal advisor to Donald Trump, a government-funded advisor to Donald Trump. And so it appears, according to ABC, that he has done a plea deal with the Justice Department for his testimony to keep him out of jail. But we don't know that to be true, because Mark Meadows has said that what the media had reported wasn't true. So we'll see if all of that comes out. But of the 15 people or the 19 people that were originally indicted, at least 15 of them or at least 4 of them are not going to go to trial. And so that means the likelihood is that significantly more of those 15 that are left are going to do a plea deal as well. All that's going to become the background of evidence that's going to go against Donald Trump when he goes to trial. It's going to be very difficult for him to be able to overcome that evidence.
It's almost as if, all of these people that are indicted, I mean, everybody's going to get off. And you've spoken outright already that Trump more than likely will get off. So, I mean, this is just, to me, it's like,
they're trying to say that they're doing accountability, but it doesn't seem like accountability to me. it seems to me like you should fight these things through.
Yeah.
You know, if you need one or two people to give testimony to verify certain evidence, you might do that. But you can't let all of these people off to do what they have done. Look how much money, how much time, how many people have been hurt, you know, as a result of this. How can you let this go? There's another guy named Harold Dunn. He's a police officer that was hurt during the January 6th insurrection. And he said what I think is most important. He says, at the end of the day, there has to be accountability. You can't attack the democracy of the United States and walk away scot-free. That just cannot occur. And so that's the lesson that we should be focusing on today.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to us and supporting us. We look forward to talking to you all on Friday here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM, WBNY. Hopefully my voice will show up on Friday.